So the New York Giants, after a 38-10 victory over the Indianapolis Colts, have officially clinched their playoff spot in the wild card, and I am so incredibly impressed with what Brian Daboll has done with the New York Giants. Now, Daboll coming over from the Buffalo Bills, we all kind of had a feeling that Daniel Jones, what he would do with Daniel Jones, he'd probably make Daniel Jones look good, but probably not the long-term answer, and I certainly thought so. I made a video a couple months ago saying after the Seattle Seahawks game, the New York Giants are going to be done with Daniel Jones. They don't trust him. They shouldn't trust him. And I thought it was just a formality at that point that Daniel Jones would be out as quarterback for the New York Giants. And now you look at Daniel Jones, 177 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns, led the Giants in rushing with 91 rushing yards. And he's a playoff quarterback now. I am so incredibly impressed with how Brian Daboll has done. I'm a Miami Dolphins fan. We had an opportunity to sign Brian Daboll as our head coach, and he ultimately went to New York. And then we get Mike McDaniel. And, the early season conversation back and forth was, who is the better coach, McDaniel and Daboll? And for a long time, Dolphins fans sticking out my chest, I was 100% on the bandwagon that Mike McDaniel was better. But that's just simply not true. Now, they do have much different experience levels, so that's obviously going to add to it, but it's a results league. Brian Daboll, what he's done with his Giants team, a team that this time last year was a laughingstock. Joe Judge never solidified a positive identity to this team. They haven't gotten much better. They don't really have any weapons. Their marquee signing, Kenny Golladay, has done nothing all year long. And yet here they are, 9-6-1, potentially can be a 10-win football team next week. Probably not because they play the Eagles. But the point still stands. Brian Daboll, I gotta say, he's the king of New York. It's not Alex the Lion. It's Brian Daboll. He has resurrected a football team that has suffered through so much mediocrity. A team that Eli Manning did such a good job at being a strong face and did a great job winning 2 Super Bowls. But outside of those 2 Super Bowls, the Giants have seen a lot of failure since I've been alive. The 2000s has not been kind to the New York Giants. And you come into this season looking at the roster they have at hand, and nobody expected them to make the playoffs. I had them winning 5 or 6 games, I believe, whenever I made my predictions at the beginning of the season. I looked at this roster and said, I can name 2 receivers on this team outside of Golladay, Sterling Shepard, maybe 3 with Darius Slayton. The guys they have playing, Richie James, I barely even knew existed. He led the team in catches yesterday, 7 catches, 76 yards, and a touchdown. Saquon Barkley, Daniel Jones, these are 2 guys that at the beginning of the season, Giants fans, and rightfully so, were not sure whether they'd be on the team next season. Saquon Barkley continued to pick up injuries, and behind a really bad offensive line, even when he was healthy, was averaging below 4 yards a carry last year. Daniel Jones, it was an interception turnover machine. He looked lost. You can see it in his eyes. He didn't want to face the wrath of the New York media. I mean, it's perfectly encapsulated when he trips over the 30-yard line, clear rushing touchdown ahead of him, and he trips and falls. He's not the most mentally strong quarterback, and that's something you have to be in New York. And again, I was certainly ready to say he's done. He's shipped. His sale has shipped here with the New York Giants. But what Brian Daboll has done is incredible. He's turned this locker room on its head overnight. He said, Kenny Golladay, you're not performing in practice, you're not playing. It would have been so easy to look at Kenny Golladay and be like, you know what? Yeah, he's not turning up and showing his talent in preseason, in the training camp, but we spent so much money on him, we have to play him. Doesn't matter. First of all, Daboll did not sign that contract. That was not his decision to bring Kenny Golladay in. Kenny Golladay, you're not performing? Okay, cool. We're going to have Richie James. We're going to have a plethora of guys that 90% of football fans could not even name you who they are. And he's getting it done. He's already clinched a playoff spot 2 games out of the end of the season. Or I guess technically a game out of the end of the season. Really got to be consideration for Coach of the Year. You're looking at Nick Sirianni, probably, if Jalen Hurts comes back next week, going to lead the Eagles to a number 1 seed. Of course, Andy Reid, McDermott, There's a few guys that deserve it, but it's got to be a battle of two NFC East guys. Sirianni has a much more talented roster at hand. He's got Jalen Hurts. He's got the best offensive line in football. He's got an incredible running game that you can throw in Gainwell, you can throw in Sanders, you can throw in Scott, and now with AJ Brown, Devonta Smith in his second year, Dallas Goedert just coming back from injury. They have so many weapons, and then on the other side, they have one of the best defenses in football. The Giants have a mostly no-name receiving core, an offensive line that was atrocious last year. They draft very well, brought in Kayvon Thibodeau. A lot of people were questioning whether Kayvon Thibodeau was mentally right in the NFL, and that's why he fell probably to pick number 5. He has a little pizzazz. He has a little personality. Yeah, he did a snow angel next to Nick Foles. Yeah, obviously that's probably not ideal, but he's got fight. He's got fire lit underneath him, and he's been one of the most impactful rookies in this entire rookie class. Daboll has drafted well, he's coached well, and now he has the Giants going into the playoffs. The Giants, looking at where they're at, they're probably going to end up playing Minnesota. They lost to Minnesota on, Christmas Day, the day before Christmas, and the day before Christmas, and it was truly a back-and-forth game in Minnesota. Anybody's ball game. Minnesota wins on a 61-yard Greg Joseph field goal. Giants could have easily won that game. They fall, and they're probably going to end up playing them again on the road. And if we're just looking at it objectively, I'm going to take the New York Giants over the Minnesota Vikings if that's what the matchup ends up being. I think they're better coached. I think they're more confident. Yes, they're less talented. They don't have Justin Jefferson. They don't have Adam Thielen. Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley, I'm taking Saquon, but they have dudes. The Giants don't have TJ Hawkinson. But what they have is success. They have a system that's working. They're not asking a whole lot out of Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones is not having to carry the team on his back, but then he goes out and has 4 touchdowns, 91 rushing yards, and just simply gets it done. And that's what Daboll has done with his Giants team all year long. They're not flashy. It's not been pretty. It's not been sexy, but Daboll's gotten it done all year long. And to me, he might just be the coach of the year.